It's Dee Dee on the spot.
Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to my guest here, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Alicia Heilner here. You can follow her on Instagram by Fitness by Alicia. Well, and obviously, if you aren't following her already, you're not doing it right. She goes to the University of Arizona and is an accounting major. Alicia, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And we also got to wish you a happy belated 21st birthday. Everyone out there, she celebrated her 21st birthday a couple of days ago. How did you celebrate? What did you do?
Thank you so much. Well, actually, believe it or not, I competed. So I compete in bodybuilding in the bikini division. So finals were the day of my 21st birthday. So I got to do that. And then I got to go out after. I had tacos and tequila. And it was just awesome. I had all my friends and family around me. And couldn't have asked for a better day.
Mm-hmm. Well, now this is confessional time for me because I promised her that I would tell her my 21st birthday party story. So I'm 24 now. I just recently turned 24, but you can picture 3 years younger, a little bit more slimmer, a little bit less puffy on the cheeks. But so I had just turned 21 and I had went out with my friends to go drinking, and I too was of the tequila variety. And after having quite an amount of tequila, I sort of lost the feeling in my mouth and tongue. So afterwards, me and my friends went to this pizza place that had really, really hot pizza that would come right out of the oven and it would be steaming hot. And I was a little too intoxicated to realize how hot it was because I didn't have really any feeling in my mouth. So we'll just say on the cab ride home, I could feel some stuff coming out of my tongue and I was like, oh, what is this? And then skin was coming out of my tongue just because I'd burnt it so badly.
Oh, God.
So the next morning I woke up and I was just like this a lot, like I couldn't, and I was wondering what happened, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I burnt my tongue. So ladies and gentlemen, remember, if you are going out to party and get intoxicated, do not eat hot stuff, or have a friend that actually knows what they're talking about when it comes to eating hot stuff. Do not have to have it be like a week or two of like mine where you had to basically like just drink stuff from a straw because your tongue couldn't deal with it. So that is my cautionary tale. I like to try to tell one every podcast, and the more you know, Ryan Johnson story. So Alicia, why don't you tell us a little bit about your fitness journey and how you got started?
Yeah, so I actually played volleyball all throughout high school. Before that, I was a dancer, so I had been on stage before, but volleyball was kind of my main thing. I played year-round since I was 12. And that really got me into being an athlete and stuff like that. And then after that ended, I decided not to play collegiately. And I kind of had a weird identity crisis. You're doing something year round for so long, and then all of a sudden it ends and you're like, what do I do? I went to college, and that is such a big life change. You're now on your own. Mm-hmm. I was at the University of Arizona. I lived the dorm life, and I kind of got away from myself a little bit, and I tried to force myself back into being an athlete. So I actually started running, even though I hated it. Mm-hmm. But I ran and I finished 2 half marathons. I was really slow, but I did it. And I was like, you know what? I just don't enjoy this as much as volleyball. So I kind of went on the quest of finding something I liked more, and it was lifting. And I had honestly never lifted before just because the U of A gym is so intimidating. I don't think there are any girls on the weightlifting floor usually. Like maybe there's 5 max. So that was just really intimidating for me. But, I just bit the bullet and I did it. And then I learned more. YouTube taught me so much, and just about the basics and about getting women in the gym. So that's what I try to do now with my platform, along with competing every now and then, is try to get women in the gym lifting heavy and understanding what it can do for their body.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things too. Is I went to Mankato in Minnesota, and along with their gym, it's the same kind of like what you were describing. There would be, the gym was on the bottom floor, and then there'd be a track above it, and all the girls would be up on the track doing their thing, like on the cardio machines, and then it would be 99% guys in there. There was one girl who was just unbelievably jacked that was in there that like everyone would always go up for tips because she was like one of the biggest people there. But other than that, yeah. So when I was about to leave, they implemented a program where they kind of left weights up in more of the track area, which helped a little bit. Like girls started kind of getting into more of like the free weights, which I think is a good first step. But it's all just about dispelling that myth that a lot of women have when it comes to just, I don't want to become like huge and bulky, when they don't realize just all the hard work and dedication that it would take to even get like a super slim and trim figure. It's one of those myths that I really think it's gotten better than it was, I think, than it was like 5 years ago, but it still has a lot of work to do.
I agree, and I think it has gotten a lot better. I think that Instagram plays a huge role in that. But I think that a lot of women just don't know how, and it's not a matter of like they don't understand that like your shoulders can be worked out as its own thing, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Like they just think about legs or they think about their arms. And yeah, I just think that the more you know, the better. So I think that's what I try to do with my platform is try to encourage women to do that.
How hard do you find it staying healthy and fit at a school like Arizona? Because no offense, everyone thinks about Arizona colleges, they just think huge party schools, huge atmosphere. Have you found that extremely difficult to maintain that in while you're in college at Arizona?
Yeah, so that was actually probably the hardest thing about getting into the competing world. My fitness Instagram actually started out as a secret. I didn't tell anybody, it wasn't my main Instagram. And then it kind of built up during my first prep because I documented it all. And I think the hardest part is that I needed to make a complete transition into saying I'm the fitness girl.
Mhm.
And that was the only way that people would respect me. And it's kind of sad, but like doing a competition kind of gained me that like, oh, like you're into fitness, so like it's okay if you don't drink this time, which is like stupid. Like you should be able to make your own decisions and stuff like that. But that was definitely really hard. Is like all of a sudden I kind of flipped a switch. I came back from summer of freshman year, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'll go out, but I'm not going to drink this time, or oh, I'm going to just have a shot because it's less calories than a huge, mixed drink or something like that. And people were kind of like, what do you mean? Like, this isn't you. So it was kind of hard for me. Like I spent a lot of alone time, Saturday nights at the gym by myself and stuff like that, and just trying to get people to understand. And I mean, I have good friends, but if anybody comes to you and they're kind of acting completely different, it's going to be a little bit weird at first, but getting over that and embracing my Instagram. And I mean, obviously everyone knows about it now, all my friends and stuff, and they're very supportive, but finding like-minded people really, really helped in that case.
Yeah.
And then just building confidence in myself.
Absolutely. And then Instagram also is a huge platform when it comes to encouraging and inspiring others. That's what I found. I mean, I started really working out seriously when I got to college too, and then I started following like all those people on Instagram, and it really is encouraging because they post so much informative stuff that, I mean, I learned all my stuff from Instagram too, and like you said, you learned a lot from YouTube, which is, I mean, makes it just a great platform to really build up your knowledge. But when you were starting out, what was the most difficult thing, obstacle that you had to overcome other than the different change in lifestyle? Was it more of the nutrition to follow, or was it just the constant exercising?
I really enjoy the exercising, and I think that the nutrition was probably hard and just the alcohol in general. I mean, like full disclosure, I just turned 21, but like I drank as a freshman in college and stuff like that. And it was just very hard because I came to terms with the fact that if I wanted to perform how I wanted to in the gym, my nutrition like had to take a front seat. And maybe that meant like cutting back on alcohol or just being smarter with it and stuff like that. And it was also very hard during my first prep because a lot of people don't really know about the bikini division or bodybuilding and how much actually goes into it. So you have to be weighing out all your food. You can't like eat out and stuff like that. So it just like college is such a social time, and I would go to these events but just not eat, maybe bring my own food even at sometimes, or just say, oh, I ate before. But that was definitely hard, is just kind of having that no excuses mindset during the prep.
Now, if everyone out there, you heard that too, she is a lawbreaker. She did drink before she's 21. All the law enforcement people out there, I can give you her email and we can get her behind bars because she's yeah. So when you were, what was your first prep like? Was it different than your prep that you just got on? Have you found that it changed a little bit, or has it had been more the same?
So my first prep, so I've only done two. So I did one last year. It was actually the same time frame as this year. So it started in March, ended in July. My last prep was a lot easier than this prep. The first time that you put your body through something like that, it will usually respond very well. If you do it back-to-back years, you will have to push a lot harder. That's usually how it is, especially for most women, because our bodies want to bear children, so they don't want to get to that super, super lean, stage-ready look. So my first prep was actually really great. I started right after spring break. And then I just got progressively, my calories dropped and my cardio raised, but I really wasn't doing more than 30 minutes of cardio a day. And then I had 2 rest days and I was still eating. I think I never dropped below 1,300 calories, even at the end. So honestly, in terms of like if you ask other bikini competitors, that was a pretty good prep. And I do follow flexible dieting so I could eat what I wanted. It was definitely a very good experience, and it's why I did it again.
Could you explain what flexible dieting is to our audience members out there? Because I personally found out about it, but it's very, very interesting. But I'd like to hear kind of your own take on it too.
Right, yeah, of course. So it's kind of like flexible dieting versus meal plan versus intuitive eating. But so flexible dieting is when my coach gives me macronutrients to hit. So it'll be, okay, you're going to hit this many grams of protein, this many grams of carbs, and this many grams of fat, because protein, fat, and carbs, the amount of grams that you have of each of those per day makes up your calories. So if you're hitting your macros, you're hitting your calories. It's just kind of one step further breaking it down. A meal plan is you eat this food, you eat like these meals. So you don't, like, sometimes people know the calorie and macro breakdown of these meals, but they just are saying like, oh, I'm going to have egg whites and oats for meal 1. I'm going to have asparagus and chicken for meal 2. And that's just what my coach tells me. I think that there's a big shift towards flexible dieting, but I think there's a bit of misunderstanding when it comes to flexible dieting, because at the beginning it was like, oh, I can eat Pop-Tarts and I can eat donuts and I can fit all these into my macros, but that's not the case at all, because if what you're eating is making you feel laggy and gross, that's not going to help your performance in the gym. So even though I follow flexible dieting, I eat very, very clean on prep for sure, 100%. So yeah.
So when you're on prep, how bad do the cravings usually get for having like even like a sugary snack or having a cheat meal? And as your prep progresses, does it get fairly easier to kind of maintain that that amount of food that you're eating, or does it get harder?
So that's the kind of the beauty of flexible dieting, is that even though I'm eating clean, I can kind of cater towards my cravings for the day. So if I usually plan my meals the night before just so I can kind of go on autopilot for the day. But if I had, for example, like egg whites, zucchini, ketchup, blah, 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 eggs for breakfast, I woke up with a horrible sweet craving, then I would make protein pancakes and I would put fat-free whipped cream on them, and I would have blueberries. So it would kind of satiate me, and no, someone's going to say, well, that's not really satisfying your craving. You're like, well, I have this goal and it gets me through it. So you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, this was definitely my hardest prep by far. My calories got extremely low, lower than they have been before. And it was really hard, but I just knew at the end of the day, this is what I wanted. So I pushed through, if that makes sense.
Is there a big difference, you think, between, or do you have a good knowledge of knowing when your body's basically telling you that like enough's enough, like maybe like I've been through enough, like your body can't take any more, or are you able to kind of gauge when it's like you can still push a little bit forward? How big of an importance is that to you when you're doing your dieting?
Absolutely. It's a big, big importance. And actually, so I did one show 3 weeks ago and I knew I had more in the tank. We were pushing it with time. That was kind of a big thing. I knew I needed more time, but I really wanted to do this show just to prove to myself that I could do it. So I did do that. And then I knew I had more in the tank because, at the end of this show that just happened 2 days ago, my sleep started really, like, I couldn't make it through the night without waking up like hungry. Even though I was eating a little bit more, I still felt hungrier. Like my metabolism was just revving. I was always hot because your metabolism is going, and I felt really achy after all my workouts. So that was kind of like, all right, like we need to stop, because there are people that maybe aren't really close to that first place, or they just barely miss it, or they get nationally qualified and win the overall and they don't listen to their body and they keep going. And that's when the hormonal issues happen. That's when, you rebound really, really bad afterwards when you push, even though you're done. And I think that as an athlete, you tend to have that mentality of pushing and pushing and pushing, but you need to step back and realize that your body is kind of fighting you and you need to listen to it.
How, like, obviously, even when you're doing training in a healthy way, there are going to be days when you just feel like crap, when you're going to, like, just zombie around. And how do you find that willpower? Is it just something deep down that you have to still say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm still going to get my cardio done? Where does that come from?
I guess that comes, well, it comes from having a coach. So you have accountability. You know that if you cheat on your diet or if you don't go to the gym, it will show, especially if you get very lean. Every cardio session counts, everything matters. And it just comes from a place of taking it day by day and beating the voice inside your head. There's kind of like a Monty Hall reference that I heard once where there's a voice inside your head that is going to tell you you're not good enough. You can do 5 less minutes of cardio. The extra 5 minutes aren't going to matter. This bite of food isn't going to matter if it's extra, blah, blah, blah. And it's like up to you to like face that voice in your head and beat it down every single time. And then I usually just think about going to bed and being proud of myself for the day, and like how I'm going to feel at the end of the night.
Yep. So I have a lot of up-and-coming musicians on here, and I like to ask them, one of the big ones we like to talk about is kind of that rush and that thrill of performing live and being in front of a crowd. Now, the same also applies for bodybuilding and figure competitors. What is that feeling like for you personally? I mean, I know you danced before, so you're used to performing in front of crowds, but what is that feeling like, especially for you after you've dieted for God knows how long, you've been just a grueling process, and you're finally able to show off all your hard work? What's that feeling like for you personally?
It is such an adrenaline high, and I didn't even realize it was going to be that for me because I have stepped on stage before, obviously as a dancer long ago. But last year, the first time I stepped on stage, it was amazing because when you're in prep, you're sweaty all the time. I went to the gym probably 4 hours a day, and you're all glammed up now. You're in your bikini, you're in your heels, and it's not even like you're going on stage and you're looking at the judges like, oh God, like, what did they think of me? It's just, you're there, you see all your family members that have been through this with you. And it's honestly the most incredible feeling ever.
So was your family always super supportive from the beginning?
They were. I'm very, very blessed. So in college, when I didn't really feel like the people around me were as maybe understanding, or they were kind of confused, I would go home sometimes, and my family would always, be there for me. My mom was coming to my first competition. I don't even think she knew what it was. She kept calling my bikini a swimsuit, and I was like, Mom, like, you can't swim in it. And I was just like, but she learned, and now they're coming to my shows and they're posting about it on Facebook, and I love them so much, and I'm so grateful.
Now, you're in the process of it right now, but one of the things that I like to talk about, or I've talked about with the other 2 guests that I've had on here, is post-show, like, bloating, or the fact that you're going to regain a little bit of weight. How do you deal with that mentally, knowing that the leanness that you have for a show is not sustainable and you can only maintain it for maybe a few days, and then you're going to start to slowly gain weight? How do you deal with that mentally?
I actually just made a post about this. I've posted it right before I got on here, but it's really hard the week after because your body is bloated because for a show, some people cut water, some people don't, but no matter what you do, it's kind of like you're manipulating your water, your fiber, your sodium, like everything you're doing is up to that one moment. And then after you eat a bunch, like right after your show, even if you are reverse dieting, you have your post-show meal. So your body's kind of thrown out of whack. And I always give it, this was a 2-day show. So I always say, give it double the amount of days after your show to re-regulate. So I don't weigh myself the day after I eat all this stuff. That's just going to make myself sad. Like, why would you do that? Like, I don't know. And it's just it's kind of hard to wake up the next day and have the tan start fading and have, no more shows in mind, and you're kind of like, shoot, like, where do I go from here? Like, the only thing left to do is gain weight. And that's why I like to immediately set new goals about performance in the gym and what I want to do in the gym. Because, at the end of prep, you're doing 15 to 20 rep things, you're really weak. And I don't like training that way. I like 8 to 10 heavier reps, that sort of style training. And I like mixing in functional training, doing not as much cardio. So I just kind of still focus on the positives instead of the weight gain that has to happen. I can't stay this lean and I don't want to.
Yeah. So obviously your body does get more used to sort of the prep life the more that you do it, but how are you able to convince yourself after each prep that you can be better than your last prep, knowing that in the previous prep you really gave it your all out?
Right. So that is kind of what happened to me last year and this year, but I'm not going to be prepping again next year because my life is just changing in many ways. But last year I stepped off stage and I immediately was like, I lost too much muscle this prep. I need to gain as much muscle as possible. And that was kind of my mindset for the whole year. So I gained a bunch of weight, but I was okay with it because I was like, you know what, there's so much muscle coming. I have so many gains. And that was just really great because, you know, looking back now that I'm lean again, I was like, wow, I actually was like really heavy, like a lot heavier than I needed to be in order to gain that much weight. But I loved it in the moment. I loved pushing heavy and that much weight in the gym. So I'm kind of looking back at where I was and using that as motivation this time around. Like, okay, you know what, I can be okay with myself at a heavier weight, you know, if I'm doing these goals in the gym and stuff like that. But it's definitely motivating because you see yourself, but you see like the potential in the future.
Yeah. So I have a friend who's just started bodybuilding, and he tells me a lot about the two S's that he likes to call sleep and stress. A lot of people don't realize how important both those things are. If you get stressful, you can gain weight super easily. If you don't get sleep, your body doesn't have enough time to rebuild and help regain muscle. How much of an importance does that play into your training?
It plays so much importance, and it's actually why I choose to prep this time of year. I only do about 4 to 5 weeks of my prep during school, and then the rest of it is over summer. And that's why we talked about earlier how I had more gas in the tank after my first show. It was because before my first show, I was traveling a lot. I had like interviews and trips and stuff like that, which I prepped on. But it's still a little bit stressful being out of your routine. But these last 3 weeks, I was able to get full sleep. I was able to not travel. I was in my routine every single day. And my stress was really low. And I also take, side note, I take an ashwagandha supplement. It's all natural and it helps with cortisol and adrenal restore. I highly recommend that as well. That helped a lot with my stress. I have anxiety just like as a person, even when you don't throw prep in there, but then you throw prep and being super lean in, and then it just accumulates. So yeah, that's a huge, huge aspect.
What would you say is the biggest surprise that someone has who's followed you on Instagram when they meet you in real person?
I would say that there's so much more to me than fitness. Obviously my fitness Instagram, it's about, hey, this is what I'm doing right now in my fitness life, but I do no work in the fitness industry whatsoever. I don't have clients or anything like that. I put out a free guide once, but that was it. A lot of my life is focused on accounting, and I'm doing an internship next winter, and I'm graduating. I want to be an accounting professor one day. So when you talk to me in real life, a lot of people are confused if they don't know my Instagram, and it's kind of the opposite. Then they're like, wait, you're into fitness? So it's kind of like a give or take. Like there's just multiple sides, I guess, to me than meets the eye.
I know way too many accountants, and it's so much numbers that it really makes my head want to explode.
Yeah, a lot of numbers, a lot of matching.
Yeah, so what to you is the hardest thing about accounting?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the hardest thing is there's a lot of, it's just kind of a whole new language. So it's kind of always learning a language, and no matter who, so I'm going to do public accounting. So that means I do accounting for different companies, and, you know, different companies are going to have different types of inventory. They're going to have different ways that they run their business. So no two accounts are going to be the exact same. So every day is going to be a surprise, and you need to learn to, you know, learn as you go sort of thing. So it's never like, oh, I have all this knowledge and that's it. Like that's all the knowledge that's out there. You know, things are going to keep progressing, and you need to progress with it.
Yeah. Do you think that your accounting major has helped you when it comes to all the numbers that you have to deal with? Like when you're in prep, you have to know all of your calories. You need to know how much like fiber you have, how much everything. Do you think your accounting has helped you overall when it comes to maintaining that number wise?
I think looking at macros and that sort of thing as a puzzle, like that, just that same mindset that I have towards accounting helps. But I would say in general, when it comes to prep, just the idea of having a major that takes a lot helps in general. You know, you already have the time management skills. You already have like the perseverance of pushing through for hard exams and stuff like that. So I think that they do coincide more than people think. Just the mindset itself. Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we go to our questionnaire part that is the favorite of everyone that comes on the podcast and of our listeners. I add up these answers, and now I've kind of started my own fitness category for these questions because the band category has already been taken, and once we reach, I think, our 50th podcast, I'll release all these results. I think this is podcast 42, but for our first question is, what is your go-to workout song?
My go-to workout song is Drake Nonstop. It just came out and it's so good.
All right, I'm writing that down right now. Drake nonstop. I was gonna say thank God she didn't say Nickelback because I forgot to announce that there was a Nickelback ban on the show. No one can announce Nickelback.
That's so funny. A Nickelback band.
No one has ever announced it, but I just say it just in case. Okay, so for number 2, out of all the celebrities on the planet, what is one celebrity that you wish that you could work out with?
The Rock. Oh my gosh. That'd be scary, but I'd be down.
Yes, I was gonna say that's the person that we had on last night said The Rock too, and she's the tallest competitive bodybuilder that's ever competed. She's 6'3", weighed like 170, and she's like, yeah, The Rock, and I was like, well, yeah, he's only just a little bit bigger than you, yeah, but but you could pull the whole total like damsel in distress thing and be like, oh, Mr. Rock, I can't lift this heavy weights, can you please help me? Yeah, and then, but he goes hard, like we were talking about before last night, that like some of these celebrities you see on Instagram, they post kind of these like sissy workouts where they're like lifting like these 3-pound weights and they're like, oh my god, getting fit for my new movie role, and we're like, come on, that's not what it takes. You're doing other things that you're not posting. You're doing harder workouts, but I think they're just trying to appeal. But yeah, The Rock actually goes hard, so I think that would be great too. So now, third question: in the fitness community, if you could work out with anyone, who would it be, and what would you train?
Okay, so Jeff Nippard is somebody that I followed since the beginning. He posts a lot of science-based content, and he has videos on every single body part, and his girlfriend and him are like the power couple. So I would definitely work glutes with Jeff Nippard because that man knows what he's talking about and he knows his glutes. He's coming out with a guide and I'm so excited.
All right. And if there was one thing that you could change about the bodybuilding figure competitions, what would it be?
I just would like to have more people informed because I don't like when people sexualize the sport. I think that there are some competitors, especially at the regional level, that they make faces and they shake their body a little more than they need to maybe, and they just kind of make it a little more sexual. There is a certain like sass that comes to the bikini division, but at the end of the day, you're there to show your hard work. You're not there to bend over super far, and you're not there to have like too much pizzazz, if you know what I mean. So
absolutely,
just like to go back to the why we're here.
Absolutely, but I agree with that for you. But for me personally, I mean, I'd have fireworks going off in the background when I'd come out. I'd have like a dollar bill like float out of my pocket. I'd be like, oh, whoops, I gotta go and pick this up or whatever, and then just do like a butt flex while I'm going down, and then I would work it. But I know it has gotten to a point too where even I've watched some of those shows, and I'm just like this. I mean, it's like I'm supporting them, but it feels kind of wrong at the same time too, where I'm like, yeah, it's And one of the things that was mentioned, and by the way, I need to endorse before I say this, I do not watch anything like that ever, and it's nothing that Dee and the Spa has ever endorsed of, but these kid bodybuilding shows that they have.
Oh, I know.
Where it's like these 5 and 6 year olds, and especially like girls and guys that they have come out and they have them like in these little bikini things. Again, I do not watch these. It's one of those things where I see it and then I click next immediately. For all the censor people out there, I do not associate myself with that. But it is just it's so gross because especially with kids' bodies, if you start working them out at that young of age, they're gonna be messed up. But it's like those toddlers and tiara things. But it's just I hope that it's just a phase that they go through where they only have these. But yeah, I mean.
Wow.
Yeah, I get that it promotes like a positive image where like if you like with all these things, one of the things that I heard was introducing kids to the gym at an early age, not getting them to like work out, but just getting them familiar with like the gym environment is really, really good. And especially having healthy parents that help encourage them. And one of our guests also said that it's the way that you get your kids to be involved in fitness is you don't make them do it. You tell them like, hey, I'm going to the gym. You can stay around and play video games. Then the kids will want to come with you then because then they'll be like, oh, where's mom and dad going? So it's definitely, especially with the obesity problem that we have in this country, I mean, more people need to get into it. And what do you think is a solution that we could have, not like as a nation, but in order to like gradually help improve the fitness of a lot of people?
I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but it contributed to a lot of my weightlifting is if you played any sort of sport in high school, or if you wanted to do it, you had to do an automatic weightlifting class, and it was hard. I was 14 years old and I was learning how to hang clean press. Like we did bench press maxes, and I was like, I didn't even know like what to do. So that just contributed a lot because I think women go into the gym and they don't know like how much weight to put on the bar, and they don't want to accidentally put too much weight and then like drop it and then look like a fool or something and have everyone like think that they judge them and stuff like that. So I just think becoming familiar and having weight classes like available and encouraged in high school, even if it's not maybe like the best or the most efficient way to like build muscle or lose fat, but just to get an understanding.
Yeah, I remember the summer going into my freshman year, I was just about as tall as I am right now. I'm 6'2", and I was we did that same little workout thing. It was for football, and I benched like 100 pounds, and I thought I was the king of the world because I was like, I'm 14, yeah, this is great. And then my older brother, who's a senior, was like repping out like 225, and I was like, oh, okay, it looks like I still got a little work to do. But yeah, it's those schools really do need to have a thing where they really help introduce stuff, because it is, if you look at these competitors, a lot of them are either like former gymnasts, swimmers, soccer players, volleyball players. They all have that foundation, and very few of them are just people that had no athletic background where they decide. So, I mean, like, again, if there's any parents out there, get your kids involved in sports if they want to. I mean, don't force your kids to get into the sports, but I mean, give them a chance to like explore that, because I mean, the teammate stuff that they can come up with too, it really helps with personal skills in life too, like communication skills. But lastly, one of our last questions here is, if someone were to come up to you and say that, like, hey, I'm starting to get into the fitness business myself, or I'm starting to get into really good shape, what is the best piece of advice that you could give them in order for them to be successful in losing weight?
I would say don't let social media dictate how you train. I think there's a lot of excess information out there, especially when it comes to dieting. You know, there's like a keto and intermittent fasting dieting right now, like that's really popular. There's, bodybuilding style training is really popular, and that's what I like. But if you really want to do boxing, if you really want to do swimming or running, don't let like the videos that are popular on social media dictate how you train and how you eat. I would say focus on science-based information, not fad-based.
Do you ever find it difficult when you're on social media and you're kind of expected to maintain this sort of image? Do you ever find that difficult on yourself, just trying to maintain that image and always having to try to come up with like a perfect shot to just show out how good you are? Do you find that stressful at times?
I don't find it stressful, and I think a reason why is because I don't work, like I said, in the fitness industry. Mm-hmm. So I'm not like, oh, I have to look skinny or lean so I get clients. Mm-hmm. It is me for mm-hmm. me and my journey. I felt it a lot this prep. I didn't want to post pictures of my body close to prep because I didn't want somebody to look and say, oh, she's doing a show in 3 weeks. She doesn't look 3 weeks out. Mm-hmm. Like I was kind of like hesitant to post, and that's silly, and that's something that I put on myself. I'm not blaming social media for that, but yeah, that was kind of the first time that I felt that way, and I don't like how I felt that way, but now that prep's over, I can look back and kind of say that was silly of me. But
yeah, do you ever get the feeling when you're posting, like especially when you're getting close to a show, like you said, that someone might look at that post and kind of know what you're going to look like? So like maybe your competitor might want to try to get like a competitive edge by saying, "Oh, she looks like this. I can like do this." Both people that I've asked have said no, but it is a conspiracy that I'm trying to form, and I've got to get one person to say yes, it's true. But in your opinion, has that ever been a worry for you?
It hasn't. And I think because people will listen to their coaches and they'll listen to, like, they have their own genetics, and that's why I don't understand. A lot of people aren't mean backstage at all, because it's like, what's that going to do? You brought your physique regardless. Like, psyching someone out can only go so far, but if your physique sucks or it's not there, then that's not going to change. So
yeah. Just another big thing, too, that like one of the biggest things, might be the biggest that people don't pay attention to is the fact that genetics plays such a huge role in what you can develop. I mean, you see some of these people that are like in CrossFit and they just look like bronze statues, basically, and it's a lot of it has to do with the genetics and the fact that they work out constantly all throughout the day, most of them. But genetics plays a huge role. Like I always tell this story, my dad has a friend who, this guy could eat 5 or 6 candy bars a day and he would still have 0% body fat. It's just natural. He just has a super high metabolism. But as much as people don't want to hear it, genetics plays a huge role. Have you found that how did you first respond to that when you kind of first learned that, though? Because it's kind of one of those things where you kind of learn like, oh, life isn't fair. How do you deal with that, knowing that there are some people out there who just don't need to put in as much work as you in order to maintain that look?
So I kind of used bodybuilding to help me with my genetics. So before I started bodybuilding, I was a stick straight up and down, and I learned that if I build my lats, then my waist will look smaller because I have a very short torso, and so it doesn't have that hourglass shape that I want. It just looks like a stick. So I kind of like the fact that you have your genetics, but then you can use bodybuilding to kind of manipulate your body how you want it to look. As far as people not having to like work as hard as someone else, that is just the name of the game. That's what you sign up for. I'm very, very big on you versus you and maxing out your own genetic potential. And that's why even though the NPC isn't drug tested, I choose to stay natural because I'm curious year to year to figure out my genetic potential. And if I, use drugs, not only am I putting my health at risk, which is why I got into this industry in the first place, but it's also kind of like once you rely on these drugs and it's not actually like your body and your genetics, that's something artificial. So I don't know. It's just kind of wishy-washy for me. So that's why I choose to stay natural.
So when you do graduate, or I should say if, fingers crossed, how do you plan on maintaining your lifestyle? And if so, how do you plan on doing it knowing that you're going to probably be working a 40-hour week and it's going to be a lot more pressing?
Right. So public accounting is very, very busy and it's very demanding. And that's why I'm choosing not to prep for a few years at least. I do want to transition my platform on Instagram as well into more of this is how you lead a normal life and work fitness into your life instead of look at me, I don't work and fitness is my life. I'm 4 hours a day at the gym, like blah, blah, blah. I'm going to compete. I think I'll be more relatable that way, but absolutely I'm going to still count macros. I'm going to transition into intuitive eating, probably in the winter time, and just kind of do my own thing, incorporate more functional training. I really want to take up boxing and yoga as well. So I'm just really excited to be a more well-rounded athlete.
Absolutely. And well, we wish you nothing but the best on here. I mean, we really appreciate having you on. It was really great. We learned a lot on here, and hopefully we all learned from my story about no drinking and eating a hot pizza. And we also learned a lot about flexible dieting and kind of, just take it easy too, I think, is one of the big points that I think we can really take out of this when it comes to starting your fitness journey. Don't overdo it when you're starting. Really just find a balance, and because if you go to the extreme, it's going to be almost impossible to maintain it. So just know your body's limits, and that takes a lot of trial and error. And believe me, people like Alicia, they don't just get looking like that magically overnight. It takes hard work and dedication. So if you don't see results after like a week or two, just realize it's a process. I mean, Alicia, how long did it take for you to get to that look specifically?
Oh my gosh, we talked about I had my dancing background for 10 years, my volleyball for 6 years, and then weightlifting for 3 years before I even wanted to start a prep. But I did want to throw in that if you're looking to start your fitness journey, I really, really want to send home that competing does not make you more it's not going to give you a lot of credibility. Don't compete for credibility, compete because you want to. And if you don't want to compete, you can still be into fitness and not compete just because I do. And I feel like it's very saturated in the moment on Instagram. You definitely don't have to. You can still be healthy and into fitness without competing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Alicia, we wish you nothing but the best on your future endeavors. If you need me to plug anything, if you need anyone to watch, if you have any shows coming up, I know that you're finished right now, but you just let me know. And then everyone go follow her on Instagram, Fitness by Alicia. You will be inspired to work out and put down all those Twinkies just by watching or looking at one of the photos or videos. I mean, even me right now, I have a feeling that I'm going to go work out, even though, as everyone can tell, the sweat that I've lost on this thing, I'm in a shed that's like 90 degrees, but the sweat that I've lost has been a workout enough. But I'm inspired. I'm gonna go start working out right after this. But this is DD on the spot. Ryan Johnson signing out. Have a great day, everyone.